Democratic welcome to our chair, the Honorable Nikki Fried.
Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. I always love coming back here to Sumter. You guys know how to pack the house here, so thank you, Deb, for opening up your home to all of us. All right, Democrats, let's talk real for a second. We have a guy in the Oval Office.
We don't know.
He's definitely not ours. He is definitely not ours. But we are sitting in a situation that every single day, it's not that we are on the verge of losing democracy. We are in the middle of it. Yeah. We are watching every day more and more things happening in our country that takes away from what it means to be an American. You know, the right to protest, the right of freedom of speech, the right of freedom of expression, assembly, all of the things that our veterans have fought their entire lives to make sure that we're protected here in the United States. And so I hear, as I crisscross the state and I crisscross the country, I hear a common thread. Where are the Democrats? Where are the Democrats? Where are the Democrats? Where's our leader? The reality is, it's you. Each and every one of you. And we have an incredible opportunity in the next 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks at this point, less than 2 weeks to show what it's like to organize on the ground, to make sure that we're knocking on those doors, we're calling our voters, because it's not just Democrats who are impacted by this moment. We've got hundreds of thousands of Democrats, Republicans, independents, not registered, who are all furloughed and still showing up to work. Meanwhile, the Republicans members of Congress have been on a vacation for 5 weeks, still getting paid.
Right.
You know, when I go through the TSA lines, which I unfortunately do multiple times a week, and they all know me, and they say, Ms. Fried, I'm here. I'm 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm here. I'm not getting paid. And yet these guys are on vacation and still getting paid. This is impacting everybody's quality of life who is a federal employee. Our military are not getting paid in this moment. As of next week, those individuals who are supposed to be getting SNAP benefits, that dries up. We're seeing lines out the door at food banks. Food not being able to even be provided to everybody who is in line. That's how many people are in need at this moment. And I can sit here all day and continue to reiterate just the things that happened yesterday or the day before, or the fact that he just took down the East Wing. I had a reporter who called me yesterday, and he said, he's from Tampa, and he says, Nikki, who is somebody that I could talk to who's been to the East Wing a lot? I was like, me. I was like, I have family photos that I've taken my niece and my nephew and my stepsons through, celebrations of holidays and women's events, memories when I was 9 years old going to the White House to see the President of the United States. These are our memories. This is our White House. And so we in this moment understand what is on the line. We understand that if we go another 2 years, my God, we haven't even been through a full year. What is going to happen to this country? Which is why it is so important in this moment to be doing everything we can to stay on message. Because it's not enough just to be yelling about them. People don't want to hear that. They want to know what Democrats are doing for you today. Which is why we are spending a lot of time lifting up our electeds all across our state, who are doing the food banks, who are going to information sessions, who are standing up and filing lawsuits against the state and the federal government. And so we have to be celebrating what the Democrats are doing in this moment. People want to know that we care about them, not about their vote, but we care about them as human beings. And so as I talk to elected officials across the state who aren't doing anything yet, I said, what are you doing in this moment? We may not have the White House, we may not have Tallahassee, but you have an opportunity to protect and defend the people that are living in your communities. I need you in this moment to be doing those food banks. I need you in those moments to educate yourselves on the healthcare system. Because everybody's starting to get their Obamacare ACA renewals in the mail. I'm seeing it all throughout the entire state and entire nation, where 300% increases. A family that makes collectively $60,000 a year, potentially are going to see 300% increases in their health care next year. So while the government is shut down, I am so proud of our Democrats in Washington, D.C. They are holding the line. They are holding the line for the people of this nation. And we are not going to back down. But that means even more so that we have to stand in our convictions of this moment. That we have to understand that yes, people are not getting paychecks, and we feel for those individuals, and we're going to do everything we can to get the government back up. But we have to protect the millions. Here in Florida alone, over 4 million Floridians are going to lose or have lost access to health care next year. That is who we are fighting for every single day. And so in this moment when we are organizing, and what we have launched, I don't know if we have any of the signs of the pendulum program. So as we know that a pendulum swings in two directions, but it takes a force of energy to swing the pendulum. We as Florida Democrats are going to be that force of energy. That we have launched the pendulum program, which is a year-round statewide organizing model. It'll be the first time that we've created a sustainable model here in Florida. We will be state number 4.
Wow.
After Wisconsin, Michigan, and North Carolina. And what do they all have in common? Democratic governors.
Yep.
And they all were red states beforehand. And showing, when I was just with Governor Gretchen Whitmer on Monday, and before she was elected governor in Michigan, they had 30 years of Republican control in Michigan.
Wow.
But they got to work, they organized, they talked to every part of their state, regardless if it's red, blue, independent, purple, green, yellow, whatever the color is. They knew that they had to talk to the people, because there's always going to be more that unites us than divides us. And the issues that are impacting people here in our state, the unaffordability crisis is out of control. People can't afford their property insurance, they can't afford their rent, they can't afford their groceries, they can't afford their gas, you name it, it's on the chopping blocks. And so the work that we do now in organizing on the ground is how we're gonna get out of this moment. There's not gonna be a silver bullet. That's, well, all of a sudden, one moment, everybody likes the Democrats. That's not gonna happen overnight, but it's gonna take work. And it means getting into these communities and saying, I'm here and I wanna listen. I'm gonna tell you a quick story and then I'm gonna pass it back to Brian, who seems like he is over there shaking in his hands. So I was knocking on a door for CD6, the special election this year, which first of all, every special election that's happened in Florida and across the country has overperformed by over 13 points.
Yeah.
Over 13 points. We flipped the mayor of Fargo. Okay? That shows how pissed off people are in this country. Okay? But we gotta give them a reason to vote for us, not just against them. So I'm knocking on this door in CD6. And I thought it was going to be a Democratic stronghold door and a middle-aged female, and that was not who answered the door. It was an older gentleman who was a Republican, and I was wearing my name and my FDP logo on it, and he said, I don't vote for Democrats. And he was about to slam the door on me. And I said, may I ask you why? And he said, oh, your woke policies and this and that. I said, I'm here to talk to you about your property insurance. And he was like, what? And I said, yeah, you pay property insurance, right? And we start talking about that. And he's like, oh, the border policy. And he starts going off about the border. And so we had a conversation about the border. And then he started talking about, oh, the overinflation of the budget and this and that. I said, you're right. I said, government always doesn't work efficiently. There's always extra spending. But do you cut just willy-nilly and chainsaw through it? Or do you go in and look at the numbers and make changes? And as I'm sitting and having these conversations with him, he's like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. And I said, hi, I'm Nikki Fried, I'm the chair of the Florida Democratic Party. He's like, oh, you were on my gas station pumps. And I said, that's correct. And so we were able to diffuse what would have been a hostile conversation by just being human, by just listening to what was on his mind, what are the issues that were important to him, and we were able to find common ground. Now, I don't know if I necessarily got his vote that round, but I can tell you that the next time he's gonna think twice and be so quick to not judge who we are and what we stand for. Those are the types of conversations we have to be having now with our neighbors, the people who have putting out Trump flags for the last 7 years that are taking them down. Go over and just say, hello, I'm just checking in on you. Times are tough now. Just want to make sure, neighbor, that you're doing okay. Anything I can help you with? Going to the grocery store, do you need extra cans for me to bring home? This is the time that we show the empathy. And because everybody is struggling. But it's going to be the Democrats who are going to organize, do the work on the ground, and start flipping these elections. It is too important to not know what is on the line. And I know you all are some of the best of our volunteers here in our counties. And so I am preaching to the choir because you are all the ones who are showing up on a Saturday midday. Where you can be watching football or going and doing literally anything else.
Go Lions.
Go Lions. My Gators aren't playing today, and I'm very grateful to that. But we know that you are here because you care. You care about your community, you care about the people that live here in the state, and the 23 million Floridians that call Florida home are counting on us in this moment, and I know that we are not going to disappoint. So thank you for being here today, and thank you for all that you do to keep our communities alive. And Ash, I can't thank you enough for running, because Brian's correct. We need candidates that run. Go Gators. We're going to get a new coach. We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. Maybe not this season, but we're going to be okay. But really, it is such an honor to be here today, and thank you for all the work that you do, and thank you for running and stepping up there. Running it for elections during these times is scary in some respects, but I heard something earlier today as I was driving, is that we have to rely on our faith, and faith has no place for fear. So we have to continue putting the faith. Now we can't have faith without work. So we got to do the work. But this is how we're going to get things done. So thank you all for being here today, and I will turn it back over to our friend Ryan.
Thank you, Nikki. And to close, we're going to invite our chair, Nikki, back up for some closing words. And thank you.
Absolutely. So what Chris was referring to, that I understand the overseas ballots, for those who don't remember, I won by 6,753 votes. Yes, I know that 4 digits on all. It's my security code for like everything at this point. But it shows out of 8.2 million votes, that's the number of a win for statewide. And as those overseas ballots that were, I think there was 10,000 overseas ballots, and as we remember on that Tuesday night, I was down by 34,000 votes. And by the time Broward and Palm Beach and Dade and Duval and Hillsborough continued to count, I was up 537 votes. And so every day I was calling into our executive director at that time. I said, how many more overseas ballots? And he says, they're going to be ours. You're okay. You're going to win this race. But that is how important, and the overseas ballots is what put me at that 6,000 level. So it's every vote matters so much in this moment. And Brian is right. I am chair of this party to make sure that I am not the last statewide elected Democrat. And we have a lot of opportunities. So this is a moment that we're getting our muscle memory back of what it means to work, because we have to continue this. That just when December 9th comes and goes, go take some holiday with your family and friends, and then come beginning part of 2026. The race is back on, and we got to continue doing that work. And I'm going to take a little bit of a liberty. I know this was not part of the program, but I want to answer any of your questions. You know, I know that you are out there, you've been on the dialers, you've been knocking on doors, you're having these conversations with your neighbors or family or friends. Any questions that are top of mind that you're hearing in the community, or answers that you need that will help you answer some questions that you may be hearing from others?
I think we're losing the, at least from the texting campaign that I've done with this committee, you know, and people respond back like, stop texting me or something. I have gotten a ton of texts about it's the Democrats' fault that the government is shut down.
Yes.
And this is from Democratic voters, right? Where
most likely those are from the left-leaning.
The left-leaning stuff, but
yeah,
it's overpowering the stuff that comes back about take me off this, don't ever text me again, like, but you know.
And in contrast, just to be fair, and the reason why I say it's probably, we're doing the left-leaning MPAs at 60% of our score or better, but our scores are not perfect. And in Hernando, I've done so many texting over the last cycle and this cycle that when we pull our left-leaning MPAs, for instance, out of 14,000 texts that I just sent this past Tuesday, I had 14 replies, period.
Wow.
That's how, because every time we do this and we take them off and we tag them hostile or whatever, you're cleaning up your data. I used to get 300 and 400 replies per, so our data's getting cleaned up. So when you get another few texts down the road, you won't, but that is good to know what that they're blaming us.
What are we?
So here's the answer. They control the White House.
Yes.
They control the House. They control the Senate. That yes, they need 60 votes. They need 60 votes, which means what happens when you need 60 votes? You have to talk to each other, and they're refusing to negotiate. They're not even in town. You know, and the Democrats are always willing to come to the table. Hakeem is physically in Washington, D.C., as is Schumer. They're willing and wanting to negotiate. The President of the United States has zero desire to negotiate. He's willing to negotiate with Putin. He's willing to negotiate with Hamas, but he's not willing to negotiate with Democrats. That says more about him than it does about us. And that what we are fighting for is health care for millions upon millions of people. And make it very clear, no federal health care plan and program, no ACA, no Medicaid, no Medicare, no Social Security goes to undocumented. Zero, zip, zilch. Okay? There is no there is no but. The thing that they're going to try to catch us on, which is not even, is that when Ronald Reagan was president, they passed a piece of legislation that mandated that an emergency room must take everybody. If somebody is sitting, giving birth down the street, you want them to not go to the emergency room? Somebody's gotten into a car accident and is bleeding out, do they not go to the emergency room? And those hospitals get reimbursements from the federal government. Those numbers are less than 4% of the entire, that's where they're trying to make it. But that was a bill and a law that was passed by Ronald Reagan, okay? And that's one called human decency. You know, that's kind of how we are. But that is the one thing that they're trying to say, but they're not explaining that. They're saying we're trying to get health care for our aliens and, and this and that. But keep it very clear. The Democrats are fighting for you. Every day, Democrats are fighting for your health care, for your family. And that's what we have to continue honing in on. Any other?
Okay, is there any Democrat on YouTube saying all these things? Because
Yes.
when I switched in, it was Johnson saying how much the Democrats
Can you
were
please
involved.
repeat the question?
So the question is, and this is something where we need help
You need
on.
to speak out more.
So this is what we're hearing a lot, and this is where we need your help. That people are saying we're not hearing it. Okay, we're not hearing the fight. I can tell you that every single Democrat elected in the state of Florida and across the country is on the same message. Every person across the nation is on every social media platform that they have, whether it's Facebook, whether it's YouTube, whether it's TikTok, Twitter, I refuse to call it X, Twitter, Instagram, or any of the other. So we're on everything. But the problem is, traditional media is not picking up the other side of the conversation. Like, that is just reality. If you look in your newspapers, the major newspapers, you read any of the articles, you're not hearing the Democratic response. And so all they're doing, which means is that we need your help more to have you going onto YouTube and creating your own videos. Because the more we flood the zones, we put out, and we get every single week, the FTP puts out newsletters and talking points. If you don't get them, make sure you're talking to your respective chairs to get you onto those lists. But it is important. My staff works really, really hard on those every week. And also, Rachel Berger's my executive director back there, if you haven't said hi to her. My team works really hard on all of those talking points. We're working with coalitions to make sure that the talking points are right, that we're giving you all the information. But if it stays in your inbox and doesn't go anywhere else, then that's not helpful. We need you to figure out who needs to get this. Forward it off to your friends. Snapshot any of this stuff. Go on to Facebook if that's where most of your friends and communities are on. But we need the help because everybody's doing it, but the algorithms have messed all of us up. I used to have 400,000 followers on Twitter, and I could have said, the sky is blue today. And it would have gone viral. I would have had 15,000 likes and retweets and all this stuff. I can say impeach the president of the United States and I'll get like 1,000 views. So things in the algorithms are making it seem like we're not fighting back, which means we have to flood the zones more, which means figuring out ways to get the message out to more people, but we need your help on that. Because we're all everywhere. I can promise you that every single one of us that are in leadership positions in the party, every elected, are all on message. I'm actually pretty proud of us as a party across the country that we are all on message. Everybody's talking about the unaffordability crisis of this country. Everybody's talking about that Trump promised on day 1 to lower costs, and yet now we're in day number 278, and everything is increasing in cost, including inflation. Yes, Rachel Berger in the back.
If folks can hear me in the back, I would almost add to that, when we specifically mention folks like Trump by name, I think that's impacting our reach, right? We know that some of these tech spaces, the social media is owned by billionaires that don't necessarily want us to be going viral right now. So the more that you can talk about what you're doing and talk about this messaging without explicitly naming them, I think your reach will be farther, and that's part of what we've been fighting back against is we are specifically being limited if we use certain words.
So what Rachel was saying is, again, we're trying to crack this code. We're trying to crack the code as the algorithms have changed, as traditional media is not covering our stuff. So we're trying different tactics and trying to have different ways. And so what Rachel was saying is that when people like me put Donald Trump in my tweet, the algorithms pick it up and make sure it goes nowhere. So what we have been trying to shift a lot of the stuff that we're doing inside the party is lifting up what Democrats are doing. So lifting up our electeds who are doing those phone banks, who are having town halls on the healthcare situation, or that it is Democrats who have always been bold. Whether it is passage of Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, that was Democrats who did that. It was Democrats who passed bills to protect the Everglades and our national parks. It was Democrats who balanced the budget. It was Democrats who brought Obamacare to society. And so the more we can talk about who we are, our shared values, and the fight that's in us for this moment, it helps us to also spread that message. So that's what we're trying to do, is not be so gloom and doom every day, and lift up those that are doing the hard work.
I was going to say there are a number of YouTube stations like Daily at Dollamore, Midas Touch. There's a number of them. At least there's 6 or 7 that I watch that are very strict course. But I'd also note that the bad faith of the Republicans is evident. They still are not wanting to admit that woman that was elected in Arizona, because they don't want their pedophile president to be,
exposed.
That's right. All about Epstein. But meanwhile, Arizona, that congressional district doesn't have representation in Congress. And the same thing, we just got called yesterday, special elections for 2 more seats here in Florida. We have a Senate seat that our Lieutenant Governor had vacated when he was in the Senate, so that seat just got called yesterday, and another House seat that's got called yesterday. Those communities will not have representation in the next incoming legislative session because DeSantis waited too long to call them intentionally. These are the games that they play. They don't want representation. They don't want democracy. They want power.
And why don't we play dirty? Why don't we get down in the mud?
Liz, where's my shirt? I'm willing to do that every day of the week. Maybe not.
We don't have representation in this congressional district right now. It's been on vacation
That's right.
for 5 weeks.
That's right. That's right.
One of the things about being at a county level or at a club level, you almost you can see what's immediately around you, but you can't see what's going on in the other 66 counties. Is there a place that has like best practices that you come across that could be put out so that others could just go into a place to find, oh, that's a cool idea that some other county, almost like a laboratory?
Yeah, so we don't have this on our website per se, but we do have monthly chairs calls where we go through, and there's a small, there's not only the chairs calls from the FTP side, but we also have, there's an internal association too inside the party, and that's what they do also. They share ideas, best practices, and certainly as we see success stories, we also have an internal chat that most of our chairs are in. So when things are happening, like Jimmy Petronas sent out an egregious text message to his entire district yesterday, blaming us for the shutdown and saying all these lies that we're trying to, have health care for aliens and provide transgender, blah, 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 blah. And I mean, just lies, just blatant lies. And so we had that in the chat. And so we were able to respond quickly and show the rest of the people in the chat. I think we've got something like 65 of our leaders across the entire state that are in the state chat. That way we're constantly like, this is what worked. This is the pictures that came in from, No Kings. That's all going in there and giving people best practices.
We see several of his former supporters coming out against him, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson. Are we leveraging that at all?
Yes.
I mean, okay.
If you look at our social media, we are clipping those things and and putting them out there. So we're utilizing. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. They're saying it. In fact, was it yesterday Salazar spoke? Was that yesterday's? So Congresswoman Salazar down in Miami-Dade was talking to a room full of what she thought was like-minded business individuals. Somebody was taping her, as you always need to know that you're always mic'd. And she basically said that we got a problem. And she's like, we've got a problem that we never thought that mass deportation would mean non-criminals. And so she goes off, and us Republicans have a problem. And she was talking to an Hispanic Business Association, and it was like, and you all have problems because you're not going to find employees. And so admitting that they got a problem, and that they were duped into thinking that this mass deportation wasn't about their neighbor, that it was about criminals, when the reality is that 70% of those who have been detained and deported have zero criminal history. We hear stories. My mom used to get her nails done at the same place for 15 years in Boynton Beach. She went to call and make an appointment last week, and the people they got deported. 30 years in this country from Vietnam, and they just came in and sent them home. No criminal record, small business owner, family. We're hearing these stories all over the state.
They're not wide enough.
You're not what?
Okay, my time is over.
Well, I don't want you to be late, it's all.
My time is over. But in all seriousness, if you have questions that are you're needing answers to, like that of what are we saying on this issue, you've got incredible chairs here locally. Send the questions over, and we certainly will find ways to answer them in a way that makes sense for you to deliver them in your own communities. That's why we're here. We are constantly looking at comm strategies, at messaging ideas, what's working, what's not working, and it is on us to make sure that we're getting that information to you.
A question. I was at the Bushnell Fall Festival on the 18th. Unfortunately, it was the same day, but it's for outreach for us. And I had 2 young men come up to the booth who had 47 and gold on their caps. And they were with the Charlie Kirk Association, whatever that club is. They had their own booth. They're looking for the young Democrats.
Yeah. They're looking for disaffected
I had no
young
answer,
men.
and I said, well, we have quite a few in the high schools, but they're not here today. So I fell flat on my face with that one. It just, is that not a focus for us?
Yeah, so we have Turning Point, we all know what Turning Point is at this point. So we have a very robust young Dem, college Dem, high school Dem. In fact, when I first became chair, we created a youth council. And so all of these leaders from all these different organizations are a part of our youth council that are on, weekly calls themselves once a month with me. We also have put a lot of time and energy into our campus program. Our voter registration director was our campus director last cycle, and we have right now 10 fellows on 6 campuses that are going around and doing voter registration, engagement on those campuses, and come next year, and those are focused on how we chose those campuses. They're focused on very strategically on data of where we need to be for flip seats or protect seats. So those colleges are basically embedded into those areas where we're putting resources and time into. But the turning point thing is a national situation.
I know, scary.
Thank you.
So I'm noticing that the winning message for some of the Democrats that are winning is not allowing us to be pulled into the culture war, because that's all they have. Their policies are unpopular, and when we talk one-on-one or human to human, we're seeing that. We've seen it with Mamdani, we've seen it with Bernie and AOC going to Idaho and saying, you're nothing like they portray you at all. So, you know, how much is this a thing that is gonna catch fire with Democrats? Is like, okay, let's talk policies and affordability and everything and stay out of the culture wars.
Because what have they done for, and I'm gonna start blaming DeSantis, because it's really kind of started a lot with Ron. Yes. You know, you all know that I stood up here at one point a couple years ago and said, one of my number one priorities is to make sure that he's never president of the United States. And we've accomplished that. And so, but what they have done successfully is they divided the nation. They pinpointed and stereotyped different communities against each other. And they did so they could pick everybody's pockets. That if we're not paying attention to, you know, we're fighting about all these other things, you won't look over here the fact that I just got 2 new private planes for Christine. Or if you look over here, all this fighting over here, you're not gonna see that I'm asking the DOJ for $230 million. First president I know in my history of my histories that a president of the United States is asking for money from the people. It's just outrageous. But when we are able to stay on the things that unite us, no matter if you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, if you're losing health care, you don't care about the party labels. You want to know who's going to fix it. And if you are, you know, losing, you know, your SNAP benefits on Monday, you're not going to care Democrat, Republican. You want to know who's going to be there to stand with you to get the money back, and to make sure that you can be fed and that your family has, you know, fresh food and on their plates. And so the more that we can find that common ground in conversations, that is how we're going to get over this. And so while we are Democrats because we care about those issues, the social issues. That's what puts us in this room. We care about each other. We care about people. And that when we get into power, that's what we're going to do, but we got to get into power first. And so we got to make sure that we're finding that the common ground areas where we're going to get more people to not only come out and vote for us, but those numbers that we were seeing earlier that Bob put up there, those independents, they flip for us 60 to 70%, which is what we have seen in other special elections. We win. Okay? We win. So we have to make sure that our messaging transcends partisan politics in this moment and be America first.
This isn't as a dig, but I look around the room and I don't see a lot of people of color. And I'm just curious how we get them more involved. I didn't say we don't see a lot of people of color. I'm just curious how we get them more involved.
So a couple of things is that we do rely a lot on our caucuses. Our different coalition caucuses that are in the party, and we are working through how to make sure that there's more in coordination between our caucuses that are in each of our counties and our county leaders. I mean, that is something that is part of how we're rebuilding this party and the infrastructure of this party, is making sure that everybody understands that we got to do this together. And so it's something that we are certainly working through. We recognize it. It's not something that we don't see either. And certainly something, I mean, I was on the phone an hour yesterday with our Hispanic caucus president, and our Black caucus president called me on my ride today that I got to call back. So that's how we're doing, is trying to provide better leadership in our caucuses and try to show ways to unite our volunteers in both areas.
Thank you.
Of course. And now I will turn the microphone back over to Brian, but thank you again, everybody. Thank you, Nikki.
Are you energized? Do we have a great leader? Thank you all so much.